Welcome in. It's Timeout Kansas City on the FiredUP Network. I'm Gerald Bentley, and we're joined, our panelists this week. We got Chris, the playmaker from Hot 103 Jams. Remember the Slam the Z, he brings you home in Kansas City. Afternoon drives on KPRS. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, glad to be here with you once again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we got Jeremy here from Royals Review. It's a big week for your Kansas City Royals. Opening day coming up. We're going to get into the Royals here in just a couple minutes. Jeremy, are you excited though? It's opening day coming up.
I don't think I could be much more excited. It's about time for some baseball.
Yeah. Even though we had the Super Bowl run, so it's a short run to get to opening day, it's still always great to see opening day come. But we do have a couple of teams that we cover here on FiredUP Network that are in their regular season. So we're going to hit those first. I'll start with the positive first. They traveled out to San Diego, your Kansas City Current. They took out the San Diego Wave, and they did so with their 7th different player scoring a goal, the most in the first 2 matches for any team in NWSL history. A balanced attack. They made up. They got a win on the road against a team that had a great year last year, and they did it without arguably the best player in the league, Dabinia. She's going to be out, as we found out, till the end of this first international break. And Chris, I mean, is it too early to say the hiring of Vlatko, bringing back the former U.S. women's national team coach, and a couple of signings, really all they needed?
Yeah, that all off top, they've been looking great. You know, besides the first week, kind of worried like, they gave up all those goals in the first week. But to see them come back and do what they did against San Diego, who's always feels a strong team out there, that's great to catch that on the road. And like you said, you got 7 different scorers already. That's always good. It provides depth. That means they don't have to rely on Dabinia. They don't have to rely on Bia. They don't have to rely on some of the other people there. That means everybody can step up to the plate and handle their business. So it's good to see those goals from Rodriguez and Labonta, the Selly Queen.
Yeah. And I mean, here, we still haven't seen a goal from one of the big acquisitions in the offseason, Tenwa. We're going to talk to her this week. You can see that on FiredUP Network. Going to go down to current practice tomorrow. She scored 83 goals in her 84 prior professional games. And she's had a good start. She's had a couple of assists. But one of your big acquisitions still hasn't scored. You get a win 2-1 on the road. Jeremy, in any team, any professional sport, I think a big part of what makes you successful is being able to instill that culture, be it baseball, football, basketball. And I think they're doing a great job. And Vlatko, just 2 weeks in, obviously he was there for preseason, but just 2 weeks in, man, you got to feel great starting the season 2-0 against 2 good competitors. As a head coach, I mean, that's got to be a huge key, is instilling that culture.
Absolutely. I know the Royals credited their winning in the minor leagues back when they went to the World Series in 2014 and 2015. They said, our guys have been winning in the minor leagues. This is what they're used to. So this is what they bring here. So being able to establish that in any sport, I think, is just super important. The expectation of winning can absolutely lead you to make choices or to try harder, even sometimes to actually achieve that goal.
Yeah, and they come back home to CPKC Park for game 2. They're going to take on Angel City, the team from Los Angeles. So another big game, because, you know, in the sport of soccer, the LA teams are always loaded up. So that's the winning team. Now we can talk about Sporting Kansas City. Dropped their first game of the year, dropped their first home game. And, you know, Chris, we were there watching it, and I even said at halftime, because everyone I talked to, the Chad and the other guys from the Soccer Journal, they told me, man, this LA team, they're fast.
Yes.
And at halftime, I actually said to you and to Danny Klickscale, man, we look faster. And we did. Sporting was up 2-0, seemed to be dominating the game. Yeah. And it all fell apart at the end, 3-2. There's Willie Agata. He had one of the big plays. And man, here's a here's a shot from where it all fell apart. Right there is where LA scored their first goal. Now, in a still shot, it looked okay, but that was LA's first goal, and then it was downhill from there. 3 goals in rapid fire succession, and really had a fourth one just taken away because of an offside. So, I mean, it could have easily been 4. And I don't know. I mean, my takeaway was it's another game where, I mean, it looked like they were absolutely pummeling them, but just didn't get enough scoring. And to make another cross-sport analogy, I did baseball already. It kind of reminded me of the Marty era Chiefs, where they physically dominated the game. I mean, just beat the hell out of LA, but they were only up 2, and they did it on over 20 shots. What is it going to take to punch some more of those in? And just, here, another cross-sport analogy. Put the hammer down, baby.
Put the hammer down.
Yeah. You go up 4-0. It's time to park the bus. You won.
It's
2-0. It's too close.
It's another classic example. I probably said this recently again. I might have said it to you, but they're playing with their food. What happens? You playing with your food, and they should have scored. They had plenty of chances to score. As many goals as LA Galaxy still had a chance to score their goals as well. And you're talking about, like you say, 2 up. Like 70th minute, you're thinking like, all right, they probably should have scored 2 or 3 more, but okay, they're going to close this out, no problem. Because the defense, to me, I don't know how you feel, Gerald and Jeremy, if you watched, but it didn't look like they played badly. It's just that 2 or 3 different plays, they messed up, some slipped, some happened, and boom, they scored their goals. The offside, they were called for offsides like 2 or 3 times on 2 or 3 different goals, like you say, 2 of them counted, 1 didn't, but. Yeah, it's just a classic example of you got to lock down. Maybe they need to focus more in the second half. It's bad. And then you have like a chance, like you said, without Johnny Russell that Saturday night. Yeah. Alan Polito had chances to score. Shallowy had chances to score. So it's just another case of playing with your food. And once you didn't eat your food, Galaxy took their plate and said, all right, well, you ain't going to finish it. Then we'll finish it, eat it for you. And like you said, the speed finally came into play with Joseph Pansel fast. Ricky Puig, I still don't know how he's in the MLS. The guy was from La Masia, Barcelona Academy. My man is in LA right now. It's crazy to see him in MLS. So, yeah, it's another tough learning lesson for Sporting Kansas City. Who knows? These points could come back to haunt them in the end of the season. But then again, compared to what happened last season, definitely we can't paint it too tough after what happened after they started last season. But still, you could think of they probably dropped, I don't know how many points. Like they got 2 points out of 2 draws and lost. They probably should have had 6 points out of 2 games already from just at Children's Mercy Park alone. Yeah, no,
absolutely. And unfortunately, you could see at the end another player that was missing is Andres Fontas.
Yeah,
I think if Fontas is in there, they don't give up 3 goals, honestly, because the last goal, Peter Vermees did sum it up great. And it's another one. It's the theme of the night, cross-sport analogies. You leave your feet, you're screwed. And Jake Davis got left one-on-one. And Jake Davis has been great as a young player, as a homegrown player, guy you can get cheap on the salary cap that's starting. He's been terrific. But he got hung out one-on-one, kind of got faked out and decided, I'm going to dive for the ball.
Yes.
Only problem is the ball was still with the offensive player. Jake hit the ground. He went the other way, goal. You can't leave your feet. You leave your feet, you're done. That was one of the most accurate things I think Peter Vermees said in the post game. You leave your feet, you're done, and that was pretty much it. And then we didn't respond with anything else.
True.
So yeah, it's just key. They need to punch it in. Take on Toronto on the road. Now, if you get a road win, it really kind of negates it because you're not going to go the season undefeated. The best teams in MLS lose 6, 7, 8 games. So, you're going to lose a few. It's just, it hurts to lose them at home in front of a sellout crowd. It's so much more similar to football. You need to win at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jeremy, man, I could tell you're into this soccer talk. Jeremy's saying, I want to go the whole 90. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get on the pitch, man. Let's go. Hey, just to help you out, Jeremy. In any future soccer conversations you're in, you can get by with saying just a few key phrases. Here's one.
All right.
Wow. I think we really weren't on the front foot enough.
Yeah. That
Say
sounds
that
good.
one on the front foot. That was a beautiful run.
Okay.
And if something doesn't go right for your team, that's okay, mate. It was just unlucky.
Yeah. I think that one's universal.
And just work those in, and then occasionally say, the theme of the night, cross-sport analogies. It was all the referee.
Yeah. It was all yes.
Yeah.
We needed
and I heard
VAR.
they're coming back. And I heard they're coming back, Gerald. I don't know if you heard the news, but
they are. The real refs are coming back, which quite honestly may have been enough to get Sporting 2 more points, because I think the replacement refs did burn the first game, and I think Peter, as upset as I've seen him in years, was if the real refs were there, I think he's absolutely right. Sporting wins that game, and the only reason he stopped short of saying that is I think it's a $20,000 fine if you publicly criticize the referees in post game, similar to the NFL. And he didn't want to get fined that much.
No. He was spicy P that night, though. That's for sure.
Yep. and you know what it was, Jeremy?
What's that?
It was unlucky.
Yep. Got to get on that front foot more.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. You get on the front foot, everything's fine.
They're gonna need to, and they're gonna need to in Toronto at BMO Field. That is for sure, because Toronto is way better than what they were last year. They're not the same team. They are way better so far at this start of the season. So
and Toronto, obviously a major market. I mean, one of the biggest cities in North America. They have all the money in the world to spend if they want to.
That's right.
Well, now it's opening day coming up for your Kansas City Royals. Well, let's flip over to a positive here. I thought this is great, man, and this game's going to sell out. June 29th, your Royals Hall of Fame. Bo Jackson's inducted.
Yeah.
I think that's a no-brainer. He wasn't inducted before. It was the Veterans Committee on the Royals that put him in, with 810 Seren Petro as one of the Veterans Committee. And Seren actually voted against Bo because his Royals stats fall below the average Royals Hall of Famer, which is, true. But I think without argument, Bo Jackson may be the best modern era professional athlete, period. I mean, he deserves to be in, right?
Period.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about Royals baseball, if you talk about the history of the franchise, it's impossible to talk about it without talking about Bo. And there's so many what ifs with him, but I'm also a big Hall guy. I'm like, you got to tell the story, right? As much as anything. And like I said, you can't tell the story of the Royals without talking about Bo. So many special situations, special cases, that he was just a unique player. And it's really cool to see him kind of get a moment to be like, this guy, he belongs in there. He had the talent. He showed it at times, until he got hurt, and it's an exciting opportunity for everyone to kind of just, it's been a while since he played. So some of the younger fans, it's like, who is that guy? Well, now you get a chance to learn a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, and you watch some of the highlights, the home runs, the blinding speed, running, sprinting up the wall and pulling away a home run. I mean, oh my God, if he would have just dedicated to one sport, he may well have been the best outfielder ever.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how much did he? I mean, the athleticism was incredible, and obviously the dedication to playing. But how hard would that be? I mean, could you even imagine somebody doing that now, playing Major League Baseball and National Football League football at the same time?
No.
I really can't. I don't think it's doable anymore.
No, we talk about the two-way player in baseball, but you ain't gonna see a two-way sport guy, I don't think, anymore during these days and times, man. No. But man, Bo Jackson was a beast on the field. I already got that Spider-Man catch in my head as you speak, since you brought that up.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, he was an all-star. He actually made an all-star team. If memory serves me right, in Anaheim, he cracked that first pitch right over those over the wall out there.
He hit an all-star game home run. Yeah. And part of the reason why I moved to Kansas City, I had the option to take a job transfer from Cleveland to either Kansas City or Atlanta, and I chose Kansas City because I like the Chiefs and the Royals better than the Braves and the Falcons.
Wow.
The first thing I did when I got to Kansas City, which, obviously I can only do because at the time I was single, as opposed to going and finding an apartment and signing a lease on an apartment, I went and bought a pair of season tickets for the Royals. Absolutely true. And
you would have been good either
there.
way because you would have got to see Deion do his thing with the Braves and the Falcons if you went there. So you would have got to see either one of the two most transitional sports stars of our time in our generation. It's crazy.
But I think Bo Jackson had an impact on the city because he lifted the Royals. Not that they were irrelevant for long. I mean, they had won the World Series not that long prior to Bo getting there, but he lifted the Royals up to relevancy as, at the time, probably the single most popular athlete in professional sports because he was the man. It was Bo Knows before it was Jordan Rules.
Yes.
I mean, he was a transcendent figure. It definitely deserves it.
Yes.
And going in there also with John Sherholtz and I believe one other Royals executive, Jeremy.
Cedric Tallis.
There you go.
GM for the Royals. He's the guy who established the Royal Way. He did the Royals kind of training camps that were kind of the precursor to some of the minor leagues. Made so many trades. I think I saw it was 61% of the players that are in the Royals Hall of Fame were acquired by Cedric Tallis. So even more than Bo, that vote in, that induction is way overdue, and it's great to see him finally join.
And ties into someone we'll talk about a little bit later because I believe Royals Hall of Fame second baseman Frank White was a graduate of the Royals Baseball Academy.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a great story. I mean, he literally worked on building the stadium.
In
the offseason before he made the Royals.
Wow.
Now, we're not asking any of the guys on the team today to help build the stadium, not literally. But how much do we need to see this shot throughout the season? This comes from the Royals Twitter account. Salvador Perez fist bumping Vinny Pasquantino. We only had 2 guys hit 20 home runs on the team last year. Need a few more of those to be a major threat. How important is Vinny Pasquantino coming back? Is he a guy that extends the lineup and gets the Royals to where they need to be?
He's so important. Whenever people talk about the Royals and they're like, okay, well, they're going to need a little bit of luck to be a winning team, to have a shot at the division. But even before they start counting on a little bit of luck, they're counting on Vinny Pasquantino coming back and being the guy he was before the injury. So that's really where the Royals kind of have to start is Vinny's got to be healthy and he's got to be performing. Now he doesn't have the power that you might expect from a superstar first baseman necessarily. He's not like a 50 home run guy, or maybe even not even really a 40 home run guy. 30 might be where he kind of tops out, but he'll take a lot of walks and he's not going to strike out. And that's going to be huge just to really put some guys on base, to drive hopefully Michael Garcia and Bobby Witt home, even with singles and doubles, because those guys can get on and they can steal some bases. They can do whatever they need to do ahead of him. So I think that's where you got to start, and then you got to probably look for 1 or 2 more guys to break out, but you got to start with Vinny.
And Chris, I mean, Vinny's the guy, right? Because if you're putting together a baseball team, you need somebody at first base.
Yes.
That's good enough defensively because it's the easiest position to play defensively and can hit. Fact, it hits first base.
Yes.
And Vinny's actually in good shape, but he's kind of slow.
I was just about to say that picture you showed me. He looked like he's in great shape right now.
He's been working out. But I mean, if Vinny can get around 300, which historically he has been, and no reason to believe he can't because he was clipping until he hurt his shoulder. That helps a lot, and I think it takes a lot of pressure out of another guy that if the Royals are going to get it done, we need him to revert to form too. MJ Melendez, who really impresses me. I like everything about MJ. I think he's a great spokesperson. Man, he has a great attitude. He seems like a team leader. How much do you think MJ can step up now that he has a role and they're not bouncing him around? They're not asking him to replace Salvador Perez. He's not having to learn a position on a fly. He had the whole out season to learn it. do we see him revert back to the guy who led the minors in home runs?
That is a really good question. I've not necessarily been an MJ Melendez supporter. I think his swing can look really awkward at times, and he can look really, really bad at the plate. But the fact of the matter is, after the All-Star break last year, he raked. And then all spring training, he raked. And he's one of the few guys on the team, along with Vinny, who can take a few walks, who's willing to watch some pitches.
Yeah.
And so if he's more the guy that he was second half of last year than he was the first half of last year, then look out. This lineup gets really a lot longer. And now we're talking about a seriously dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, do you see how? I mean, I just think they put him in a bad spot last year, and honestly, they may not have had a choice because you have to run guys out there. You got to facilitate the game, but I mean, that would be really hard. That would be like saying, okay, hey, before you and I started doing broadcasting, they come up to you and go, oh, hey, I know you've only done talk shows, but you're doing afternoon drive on the #1 station in the city, and it's a music show. Go. And no training. Go.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I mean, that'd be crazy. I mean, obviously you can do it because you got the skills, but man, it would be so hard to just stay focused because you're thinking about everything you're doing. And I just think that's what MJ was doing all last year.
Yeah, and Jeremy, you could correct me if I'm wrong as well, but I feel like there was a big dilemma as far as should they send him down to work on his swing or to get him back in the groove of things? Did they keep him up even though he wasn't contributing like he was? It was like a big talking point. I remember towards the end of last year, it was like, what are we going to do with MJ? Should we bench him? Would I help him? Would I not help him? I mean, it's just crazy to think. So I'm sure it's got to be motivating for him this year to say, okay, I need to make this stick this year because who knows what's going to happen after this year. Could this be his last chance as far as trying to stick into a rotate in the lineup on a regular basis?
Yeah, at the beginning of last year, he was struggling so hard. He was hitting the ball hard, but that was about it.
Yeah.
He was still striking out a ton, and even when he was hitting the ball hard, he was hitting it at guys. But the Royals didn't have anybody else. Drew Waters was hurt, and he was basically the fourth best outfielder. So MJ, you got to go back out there, buddy. But this year, they've got Nelson Velasquez that they could move from designated hitter out there, and then Nick Prado went down to AAA. He had a really good spring. So both of those guys, honestly, and Hunter Renfroe, they have all got to perform fast, or they're going to lose their jobs. And that's a huge difference this year from last year, is that there are guys waiting to take your job from you right now.
Yeah, that's a great point because we do have legitimate major league skill level players to go in there. We're not sending Edward Olivares out there with his meat cleaver to play the outfield. These guys actually have gloves. They know how to use them. They're not horrible out there. I mean, I think really actually probably MJ is our worst defensive outfielder right now. And even never playing the outfield before, MJ was already lighting days and nights better than Edward Olivares out there.
Yeah. And
I like
that
Edward
too, right? So we're good on the infield. It's just worried about the outfield, what the production is going to be like.
And you know what struck me is you look at the Royals lineup, their day-to-day lineup they're trotting out there. You can see that if Kyle Isbell, who's probably a Gold Glove level center fielder, if he can hit a little bit, which he hasn't really done since he was at UNLV, but if he can hit a little bit, that's good. If Vinny Pasquantino's healthy, if Michael Massey or Nick Lofton can hold down second base because they were radically uneven, and if Nelson Velasquez can continue for the year, we're good.
Yeah.
But we need 3 of those ifs to come through. We can't have only 2 of the ifs come through.
Right.
Where do you see this team finishing? Do we get 3 of those ifs to become yes and make a run at the wild card?
So I don't honestly think the wild card's in the picture for the Royals. The AL Central is so weak that it's basically win the division or go home. So that's the first thing. But I argued almost all of last year that the defense that Kyle Isbell and Michael Massey provided up the middle was valuable enough that if you've got Isbell batting ninth, and you've got Massey batting seventh or eighth, especially as he added some of that power later in the season that he'd shown kind of in the minor leagues. Then you've got 6 guys ahead of them that belong there. Then you're okay. They're legitimate major league players, and I know a lot of people were upset, but Kyle Isbell shouldn't be batting 6th. Michael Massey should not be batting 4th. That was where the roster was last year. So that was the problem, is that those guys just didn't belong where they were. So I hope everyone will kind of calm down and give them a chance to show that they do have value on this roster. Lower in the batting order.
I mean, really, if Kyle Isbell can find 15 points of batting average and comparable amount of on base, he's fine. His defense, if he hits 250 and gets on base at 290, steals a few, that's okay.
Yeah, even with the way he hit last year, his defense was so good that when you look at websites like Fangraphs or Baseball Reference, he graded out to like a near. I don't think he quite made it, but it was near a 2 wins above replacement, which is generally considered starter level. So he's not an all-star. He's not an MVP candidate, but he's a guy that you can feel pretty good if you put him out there, as long as he's batting 9th and you're not counting on him to really drive in the runs.
Sure.
Hey, if you can't score him, you better stop him. That's the thing, right? If you're not going to score the runs, then you better stop runs from coming in. That's for sure. Very
true. Now, on the pitching side, everything kind of fell into play as we thought in spring training, except for the 5th starter, Jordan Lyles. Not in the rotation, Alex Marsh. And that's probably good for everybody. One of the younger pitchers, although he's not super young, he's 26. So, I mean, it is kind of go time. He's in the rotation, and I think Jordan Lyles is probably in the right role, because Jordan Lyles as an opener or as a middle guy is probably fine. He's probably better than average. He was getting his brains beaten in when we had to trot him out there in the 6th inning because, again, we had nobody to pitch. So, we're losing the game anyways. Jordan, go out there, take a few whacks. I think his earned run average in the 6th inning and later was 11.8, which is unbelievably bad. And it skews all of his stats, because if the games were really important, there's no way Matt Contreras, an analytics guy, there's no way he's trotting somebody out there when he's looking at it and say, well, hey, if I leave you until 5 innings, you're league average. If I put you in at 6, you're the worst pitcher in baseball. Go on out there, give us another 2. They did it all year. It was insane.
Yeah, part of the problem was that, the Royals had even less depth last year than they do this year. And I mean, there were times last year when they had every 5th day was a bullpen game for like a month or 2. So Jordan Lyles, you have to go out there and you have to eat innings, because we don't have anybody else who can pitch them. Chris Bubich went down with that injury early on. Guys weren't ready to come up. Daniel Lynch still doesn't really look ready, but Alec Marsh really did take a step forward. This is kind of the best case scenario where Alec Marsh is not getting the 5th starter job by default. He earned it with a terrific spring training, with a lot of strikeouts and reduced his walks. And I said this about Alec Marsh last year. This is the big thing. He strikes guys out. So that's step 1. And the problem was that he walked everybody else and he gave up a bunch of homers. If he could stop doing one of those things, he was going to be good. He didn't walk guys this spring. He still gives up homers, though spring training home runs are kind of skewed because the way the air is in Arizona. But if he's going to stop walking guys and he's going to keep striking them out, he's going to be a really exciting guy to have pitching every 5th day. And Jordan Lyles, as we kind of discussed, his strength is he can pitch innings. You can count on him to go out there and he's going to pitch innings. Now in a relief role, you're going to have him pitching innings that are not important, that either the team is way ahead or way behind. It doesn't really matter how many runs he gives up. It'll be fine. So just go out there and eat some innings, Jordan. Instead of saying, well, you got to go out there in the 1st inning. Oh, you gave up 5 runs. Well, keep going.
Got out.
Do it some more. We need those innings. So it's an exciting turn of events. I thought before spring training that Jordan Lyles was just kind of going to get it by default. So I'm super excited to see them say, yeah, there's a competition, and Alec Marsh won it.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. I mean, you want to see some depth coming up in the organization. And, some of the organizational charts, I think, are really kind of skewing the Royals a little bit harshly because they don't really have the fourth worst organization in baseball because a lot of your young guys are up in the big leagues. So I think it's fair to say it's going to take a little while to retool. I mean, I think JJ did a great job as the GM with only the 1 year to observe. It was some of the best trades in season that I can remember the Royals making.
Oh yeah.
It really seems like when you look at guys like James MacArthur and Cole Reagans, that the Royals kind of identified guys that they're like, we can help that guy succeed, and they went out and got him, and then they did. They actually helped him succeed. There was a plan, they followed through, and it worked. And that's not something I can even the 2014 and 2015 Royals didn't always feel like there was necessarily a plan.
No,
kind of came together because they were like, well, let's give Alex Rios $11 million. Well, that didn't really work out, and yet they were still the best team in the American League.
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit of it's an exciting thing to see them go out there and say, okay, now we know what we've got. Now we know what we need to look for, what our coaches are good at. So let's hope they keep working on that. If they can keep making steals like they did with Cole Reagans and James MacArthur, they're gonna succeed regardless, kind of what their farm system does.
It's almost in reverse of the trades the Royals made during the World Series years, because we traded for Ben Zobrist. We gave up our young players to get that established star. The Rangers did the same thing because they needed bullpen help. So they gave up Cole Reagans to get a rent-a closer. And hey, it's okay. You won the World Series. It's good. But at the end, you end up paying the price for it.
Yeah. I don't think I don't have any sympathy for any Rangers fans who were like, oh, if only we kept Cole Reagans. Sorry, guys, you won the World Series. I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, and the signing of Aroldis Chapman turns into a guy who is legitimately a number one pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. You signed a guy to a rent-a-player contract, you flip him, and you get a left-hander who throws 101 miles an hour and has, I still think, the best article about a Royals player this spring training, according to Bleacher Report. He has a Bugs Bunny changeup because Bugs would get the strikeout on one pitch.
Right. Oh my goodness! Every strikeout at the K, they should play. That's all, folks.
Yeah,
every strike somebody out, they should do that.
Yeah, a Bugs Bunny changeup. So, hey, besides the obvious Cole Reagans and Bobby Witt Jr., who are we looking at as the breakout star for the Royals this year? Who's going to step it up?
Ooh. I've been pitching Michael Massey. I really think he's got something there. Like I said, he showed a lot of power late in the year last year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's hurt now. So his season's a little bit delayed, but hopefully it's not going to be serious. He's going to come back real quick. And I fully believe that now that he's got a full year in the big leagues under his belt, he's ready to explode onto the scene. And, he's not going to be Bobby Witt Jr. out there, but I think he's going to be a better than average starter at second base. And I think people are going to be very pleasantly surprised with him.
Okay. I like that. Chris, your choice.
I'm going to have, Vinny's not really the person I want to pick, but that's who I'm going to have my eyes on, man. Because I really believe that we would have had a better season if Vinny would have played a full season.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And just from what I've been seeing, he's been excited about the moves that's been had this offseason. Yep. He's been getting ready for this. So, and he's got the swag that he's going. He reminds me of Travis Kelce on the baseball diamond. That's what he reminds me of as far as the way he comes out to the park and how he does his interviews and things. So I'm very interested to see what Vinny's going to do this year. Also interested to see what Garcia's going to do this year as well, too, because I didn't know much about him till last year. So it'd be interesting to see like, oh, okay, pleasant surprise. Let's see if he can keep it up this year.
Yeah, no, he looks great. I like Vinny Pasquantino too. He does great interviews, and a guy comes across terrific. And I'm going to go with MJ Melendez, another guy I think comes across terrific, seems like a team leader. I'm just hoping they can find that player that led the minors in home runs, because he doesn't have to do that. He just needs to hit 20, 25 and be an okay outfielder, and that should be enough to make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move over to Arrowhead, as we're building. We're building momentum. We're establishing momentum. We're pushing forward. We're going up on the front foot now. The Chiefs added Hollywood Brown. Is Hollywood going to be the key to opening up the offense and seeing the electrifying offense return to the Chiefs? Because now you'll have Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice to pair with Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, and of course the best quarterback in the National Football League. How much does that help? Chris, are you excited about Hollywood Brown coming?
I'm a mix. I like what Hollywood can do on the field. I'm just worried that sometimes he's like his cousin Antonio at times. So that's where I'm worried sometimes with Hollywood. Like, is he here? Is he really going to contribute? I'm worried about like his, he's been injured too recently. I know he had some injury problems out in Arizona when he was out there, but I think the motivation is there. I'm just worried, like the Chiefs keep looking for a Tyreek part 3 out here. I just think they just need somebody to catch the balls, and I think they got that with Rashee Rice. So I think that's a good thing. There's not too much pressure on Hollywood to come in and say, hey, we need you to come in and do what these other receivers couldn't do last year. It's like, no, we just need you to help contribute to what Rashee is doing, to what Travis is doing. We got the running game going. It looks like they're going big with the tight ends again. So he don't have to do too much. So that's a good thing. I just hope that he doesn't turn into, okay, I'm not getting the ball this game, what's going on, and become one of those type of deals. I don't think they need that in the locker room in Kansas City, which I don't think will happen anyway, because Pat Travis is like, hey, buddy, we're here about championships. We're not about other stuff. So sit down, and we go sit you down somewhere else for you. So, but I think it's a good pickup for the Chiefs, though. You can't lose. That's the best thing about it. You can't lose with the move. It's just, will it pay off, and will he actually, okay, I'm going to sacrifice this because I want to win. That's what it's all about. If you're coming to the Chiefs, not about the stats, it's about, do I want to win?
Well, don't you think he already kind of tipped his cards that that's what he's doing, because he signed the contract? Signed the Juju deal. It's 1 year, $7 million, and then a bunch of incentives that'll get him up to 11. I think he could have got significantly more than that, but just go to a bad team. He took less money to go to a championship team, which is something the Royals used to get when they were contending for the World Series. I mean, you see that. I mean, the Patriots made a model of that, getting guys to come and sign under market for a year to play with Brady, and then, okay, hey, I'm going to go elsewhere and get paid, but it's fine because there's always somebody in that position.
Yeah, and as you said, he signed that Juju deal. It worked out real good for Juju. He signed that 1 year deal, and then he got some pretty good money from New England.
He did.
As the late great Terez Paylor used to say, the contract year is undefeated.
Undefeated.
It is.
The 1 year contract, it's a contract year. He's got to come in here and he's got to produce if he wants to get paid next year. And I think he does want to get paid next year. I look at him and I say, at the beginning of last year, he would have been the best receiver on the team. He was better. He was better last year than Rashee Rice was at the start of the year. And this year, all we're really asking, the team just won the Super Bowl. So we're asking, are you better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling? I think the answer is obviously yes.
Sure.
So they just won the Super Bowl with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You just upgraded the wide receiver room. I feel good about that. That's all I'm asking for.
And way better than Kadarius Toney by far. I know that's what they were saying. Get him out of here. We're gonna bring Hollywood in there. That's by far is what that told me is we need that speed out there, but Kadarius ain't working. So let's try this again with Hollywood and see if this works.
No, I mean I'm perfectly fine if they go into the season with Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Justin Watson.
Yeah,
I think Sky Moore's on the team again, largely for special teams.
Yeah,
and
Cole
then
still there.
whoever you draft, and that's fine. Now on the defensive side, we did make a couple of signings. We added Drew Tranquil back. We got Mike Pennell back. L'Jarius Sneed, though, now a member of the Tennessee Titans. They're loading up for now, which is interesting. But that's what they're doing. They're going to build behind Will Levis. Trent McDuffie was rated as the 4th best cornerback in the National Football League last year. He's going to slide over. Shamari played terrific in the playoffs. He was highly rated. You get Brian Cook back from injuries. And the other young Chiefs DBs, I think that's a move you had to make. I think they need to stockpile a little money because the reality is you can't sign everybody. And I don't think they could afford to pay Snead 20 mil per. And I'm glad he got the contract with the Titans. But you just can't keep everybody. And I think they're loaded up enough at defensive back. They can move on and it's not going to hurt them much.
And you can look at the past moves that when they feel like they can go find a cornerback. Because if you notice, Parks Peters, when it's time for him to get paid, they got to move out of there. Charvarius Ward, they ain't want to pay him. Now he's at San Francisco. L'Jarius Sneed, it's time to get paid. Oh, that's okay. We got Trent McDuffie and we grown some other people, so we're good on that. And they flipped him. So it's obvious they say, look, we know how to groom a cornerback. We know how to get cornerbacks and find them. So it's not a position that we need to necessarily pay for. And like I said, the last time we talked, it's really down to him or Chris Jones. You know they're going to pay Chris Jones. So Chris Jones is by far one of the top defensive players in the league, period. So, they had to keep Chris Jones on that line. So it was a matter of that, and they made their choice. And it looks like both parties won because Snead got his contract, and he's going to be out in Tennessee. And Tennessee looks like they're going to try to win that division next year. If they can figure out that quarterback room.
Yeah, well, they got Will Levis, and we'll see what happens. And, I think you have to go with the defensive lineman. I grew up watching the Browns. I covered the Browns. Oh, yeah. The Browns had one of the best defensive backfields in the NFL. Marty was there coaching, and they never won because they didn't have a pass rush. We had Dave Pizzoli in the defensive line, and unfortunately that killed Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield because it didn't matter that they could cover, but the quarterback could just sit there and wait all day, and eventually somebody's going to get open. It doesn't matter how good your defensive back is. So, yeah, I agree. The guy who's hitting the quarterback, I think, is always more important than the guy covering the receivers. Because if you hit the quarterback, doesn't matter if the guy's open.
You also got to consider the Chiefs, as Chris was kind of alluding to, the depth that they have. After Chris Jones, they had George Karlaftis and then question mark.
Yeah.
So you really needed that defensive lineman. After L'Jarius Sneed, you still got Trent McDuffie. You've still got Jalen Watson. You still got Joshua Williams. They've got a Nazia Johnson that they're very excited about. Who was hurt last year, but should be ready to play again this year. And they've shown an ability to draft guys late. They got Rashad Fenton in the 7th round and turned him into a legitimate starting cornerback. And then he left Kansas City and hasn't done much since. So
Snead was a 4th rounder.
Right, exactly. So they've shown an ability to kind of go out there and find cornerbacks. Now, you're not going to necessarily don't count on finding another Snead, but you can find some guys that can fill in and at least be respectable. Whereas they've had a little bit more trouble finding guys for the defensive line, so you definitely want to hang on to the one guy you know you got.
I agree. And now let's get to the big subject because it's coming up here April 2nd. We talked about Frank White. He's a Hall of Fame second baseman for the Royals. He's also your Jackson County executive, and he's not in on this plan. But the current plan is to take the former Kansas City Star building. There it is, just sitting empty. It was the printing press building.
Man.
It's right there, just off the P&L. And that building is going to go away, and this is going to go in its place. There it is. Look at that. The new downtown stadium. There's the T-Mobile Center in the background. There's the 2 Light, the Lowe's Kansas City Hotel just a little bit across the street. I don't know. I'm all in on it. I want it because, and I can't vote on it because I don't live in Jackson County, but I saw what building a stadium downtown does for a city. When Cleveland took the old Central Market, they knocked it down. It was basically, it was downtown Cleveland was way worse shape than Kansas City is right now. Don't get me wrong, but Central Market, it was horrible. Plowed it under. You built Jacobs Field, Progressive Field now, built the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. At the time, it was the Gund Arena. And overnight, boom, whole downtown developed. I think you see a developmental wave. I think the companies that are saying they're going to get displaced by it, it'll be fine, because areas where you don't want to be now are going to be areas that are super desirable, combined with the streetcar, because, build it, they'll come. I'm not quite sure I see the negative. I know there's some legitimate points, because obviously where the stadium goes in, it's going to drive up the cost, and people living right there, unfortunately, are going to displace some people. But I don't see a legitimate reason to be against it. I think it's super important to Kansas City to keep the Royals in the city. And if anything, I think the Royals' economic potential has been wasted for years by being out at the Truman Sports Complex where nothing's developed. Well, what do you guys think?
No, I'm with you as far as I'm for it, and the reason why I'm for it is for the reason that you said. I've been to other cities, like when you go to St. Louis, or when I went to Petco Park in San Diego, how beautiful that looked downtown. Yeah. About an area, and then you look at other places like that's building these type of complexes, like Atlanta. When you see the Battery out there, it just looks crazy out there.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. I know some people worried about the businesses. I know some people worried about just stuff going up, but like that's just part of growth. And believe it or not, Kansas City is growing.
Rapidly.
You can see how downtown and Power and Lights have been looking. You see the airport. You're getting the World Cup. There are things that Kansas City is just going to be moving forward, and it's one of those you got to get on the train, or you don't know what's going to happen. And trust me, they don't think if it's not happening, they're going to go across the border. They're going to go somewhere else. So they're going to get this. They're going to get it done. It's just a matter of will Jackson County benefit from it?
Yeah,
and I think they will. Most importantly, I think it will pass just on the strength of the Chiefs, because the Chiefs. The way it's going, whatever the Chiefs want, they get. And so if they're helping out with this, because they could have said, no, we don't need to partner with the Royals for this. We can do our own thing. But they're actually partnering with the Royals to make this happen. So I think it is going to pass through. But it is crazy how close the vote looks like it's going to be coming up this upcoming Tuesday. It's going to be very interesting.
I think, unfortunately, every vote now in the country is close.
My goodness. Yes.
The whole city is booming. I get to drive around the city a lot, and I took the scenic route from the south side suburbs down to a great local restaurant, not a paid endorsement, but if you're in Kansas City, if you get a chance to go to Niecy's, terrific restaurant. Went there to get some of the fried catfish. It's on 63rd and Troost.
Yes.
And I know the stigma in Kansas City is, it's Troost. Oh, man. There are new loft apartments being built directly across the street from Niecy's. And then as you drive in on Troost, heading towards downtown, you go by about 12 blocks of new apartments that are going to run about $2,000 a month. And it's a good apartment complex because there's a Chase Bank and a Starbucks going in it. So the city is developing everywhere. People are moving to the city. It's not just the outer areas where you think that everything's exploding. And I think baseball is at its best. Jeremy, I think baseball is at its best when it's a community sport, when you go down there, you make a day of it. Maybe you have breakfast somewhere. You walk around the city, you go to a few little shops, you go to the game, you enjoy the game, and then you can go get a couple of drinks and maybe have dinner downtown and then head home. Where right now, if you look around Kauffman Stadium, I mean, it's just crazy to me, because you have the Adams Mark Hotel, which, I mean, I got married there. It hurts me to see it sitting empty. Right. The Adams Mark Hotel sitting empty. Obviously, COVID was part of that, but you got a big empty hotel. You have a couple of closed down fast food restaurants. You got a Casey's, Subway, and that's it. And other than that, you have to go on the highway to go anywhere. So, I mean, there isn't that community feeling with the stadium. It's just a parking lot. And I know Chiefs fans will get upset for saying that, but it's true, especially for baseball, because baseball's 81 games. You're not going in.
You're not
telling some people do, but it's not a mass deal like football, and it's not scheduled like football. That lends itself to that. Baseball schedule is much better in a downtown environment where there's stuff around, so you can just show up, eat, and then go to the game. I mean, don't you think going around some of the other stadiums in the league?
So I gotta say I'm kind of a negative Nancy on this subject, I guess. I'm not opposed necessarily to downtown baseball, though I will say Kauffman Stadium is currently one of the oldest stadiums in the country. I think it's iconic.
Oh, it's a beautiful stadium.
But beyond that, I'm just I've been doing a lot of research on how the Royals have been dealing with all this stuff, especially around the community benefits agreement that they announced. And I got to tell you, it's not really a community benefits agreement. It's an opportunity for the Royals to kind of donate to a charity, perhaps to themselves as a charity, and to try and kind of deceive people into believing that this is going to benefit the community. It's really a huge bummer for me looking at, say, the Milwaukee Bucks, the CBA that they did out there, or the one that they did in Nashville when they built their Major League Soccer stadium, and then look at what the Royals are offering people. I'm just so disappointed in the team. I'm a huge fan of the Royals. Obviously, I've been writing for Royals Review for 8 years now, almost. But this has been very depressing for me to watch them just kind of they running around like, oh, we're gonna be over here in Greenwich Village. Oh no, we're gonna go to Click County. Oh no, now we're gonna go to to Crossroads, and they can't seem to make up their minds, and there's all this back and forth, and then the stuff about the CBA. So I'm not. I can't vote in the Jackson County election either. I don't live there either. But if I did, I would absolutely vote no. I don't think the team's going anywhere necessarily. No. John Sherman has a huge. He's well planted in Kansas City. So if the vote doesn't go his way, I would really expect the team to kind of have to just come back to the bargaining table with people. And I think we could get a better deal for the people of Jackson County and for the people in Crossroads area. So that's what I'm hoping for, is actually that the vote goes no. I think the stadium's going to get built regardless. I just want to try and get a better deal for the people of Jackson County.
Now, are you saying that they kind of, because we talked about the Bugs Bunny changeup, are they kind of doing the Bugs Bunny counting? 1, 2, 3 for me, 4 for you.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me, 6 for you.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, if it's their apartment building and the affordable housing is 2 floors of your high-rise apartment building, that's a little. I
mean, they haven't offered anything as far as wage floors, as far as affordable housing. They've offered nothing. They said we're going to put $3.5 million in a fund every year, and then we'll help decide where that money goes. And I've actually been reading the physical document that they sent to the Jackson County legislature, and it basically says this money has to go to a 501c3 charity, so like a normal charity, or a baseball stadium in Jackson County.
Well, you see, that's
baseball stadiums in Jackson County that they might want to send that money to.
Yes, that's what you get for being a journalist, though.
Yeah.
They don't they don't want that. Now, I've said consistently, I mean, heck, since we premiered this, and actually since it's been on the FiredUP Network, that the Current nailed it, because they got an $800 million development project done in an area of the city that hadn't been developed for years, and they did it without a vote. They did get some tax abatements because it was the Port Authority, but there wasn't a public vote. There's not a ton of public money. The tax abatements are abatements against nothing, because nothing was being paid there. So anything you're getting is a profit. And they did it without any controversy. Their only controversy was opening it up too early because the parking wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And in comparison to what the Current's done, the Royals' effort has been embarrassing. Absolutely. But Chris, I think that the Chiefs can kind of help carry it forward. But I wanted to ask you, is this enough? Did the Chiefs redesigning the parking lot, a little amphitheater, a nice party area, and some new concessions, is that enough for Arrowhead?
No, I don't know why they don't get a new stadium. I think they both need new stadiums. I don't get why I don't know why they're opposed to not just building a whole new one. I thought they would have put the roof on a long time ago to get Final Fours and to make the other money they could make. Imagine them having a WrestleMania in Kansas City, Arrowhead. Like that, I don't understand what they're opposed to. Maybe it's Lamar Hunt. There it is. maybe it's Lamar telling Clark, "Hey, I don't want anything to change with the stadium." I don't know what it is, but I really believe that if they went and said we want a new stadium instead of doing what they're trying to do, people are like, "Yes, let's do it. Let's get it to you." I don't think they need. I mean, I expected them to put like a whole village over there, like they said with the like a not a
like Packers did.
KC Live, but just like you say, some of the stuff out there still. But I figured they were just okay. We're just going to build a whole new stadium where the Royal Stadium was, and then we'll take the rest of that, make that to the parking lot, make that a whole get together, make it a real tailgate village. And say, all right, everybody want to tailgate? Come on through. We'll have areas for that, and make it more glamorous because that's what it's all about when we think about the Chiefs. Is tailgating.
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, it's not like the Hunt family doesn't know people in their immediate family that does real estate development because, I mean, my God, talk about driving around the city. You see Hunt Midwest Development everywhere. And their cousins, I mean, Clark's cousin is the person who's negotiating to buy the Country Club Plaza. And they own the shopping center in Texas where one of the soccer teams, conveniently the one that Clark owns, has their stadium in a mall similar in concept to the Legends. So, you know, you would think you could develop around there. I mean, there's plenty of property you could buy. I mean, you know, there's the burnt out Denny's spot. There's the Adams Mark. There's the closed down Burger King. I mean, that could all be a little bit nicer stuff. And maybe that's coming, but nothing's been mentioned yet.
It's super weird what they're trying to do in Arrowhead. You know, the practice field I think is a really cool concept, but also I know a lot of the improvements that they're talking about making at Arrowhead would involve luxury suites that we're not going to be able to afford.
No.
So
the end zone suites like they have at Allegiant Field where the Raiders play.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bummer for me. Is I'd like to see them. You know, there was the whole thing also last year or earlier this year, I guess, where the players put the NFLPA put out their report, and the Chiefs came in 31st F- for you know the facilities and the trainers and all that stuff. So to be like, yeah, we're gonna build some luxury suites. Well, why don't you rebuild that locker room while you're at it? You know, let's get some player amenities in here. We got the best team in the league. You got perhaps what could be described as the best oh gosh, forgot the name of it. Dynasty, there it is. Dynasty ever in the NFL by some definitions. And you got trainer issues, you got locker room issues. You can't get those guys a little bit more for all those playoff runs that are bringing you in all those extra dollars.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, the suites do tie into some of that stuff because the teams that have the most suites tend to be the teams that spend the most on signing bonuses because suite tickets are not shared revenue. So you want more suites. There's a reason why Jerry Jones Stadium is filled with suites. There's a reason why the Raiders Stadium, there's a reason why SoFi Field is. That is non-shared revenue. So that makes a huge difference in the cash flow of the team. So if you are a Chiefs fan, you may never sit in those suites, but it still benefits you because the money that gets spent on reserving those suites and buying those tickets, that's a lot of what goes to pay the signing bonuses for the free agents. So there is an indirect effect that benefits every fan in terms of winning because it just creates that extra money. And Arrowhead, I mean, you can tell the newer stadiums don't have as many suites. I mean, or the stadiums, the arenas that haven't been redeveloped. If you take a look at T-Mobile Center, it's a perfectly nice arena. I believe it's the single most profitable arena in AEG's group because they don't split revenue with a hockey team or a basketball team. But you go to the T-Mobile Center and then you go to the Madison Square Garden, the thing that just jumps out at you almost immediately when you walk into the Garden is, my God, look at all the suites, look at all the restaurants, look at all the bar areas. I mean, there's this huge bar area in Madison Square Garden right up in the end zone behind the basket that's open. Anybody can go in there, filled with a food court. And you would think it would be insanely expensive because it's in New York. It's cheaper than T-Mobile Center, and you can just hang around. There's a big bar and a big lobby, so there is something different with the absolute top of the line stadiums. And Arrowhead is historic, but it's not at the par of the current stadiums, and unfortunately, a lot of it is the suites.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the super wow factor that everybody gets excited about, but I'm sure it's super important to the team because that's what makes the money and that's what creates the cash for the signing bonuses.
If it wasn't important to them, they wouldn't have put it in the plans. But yeah,
very true.
It's very true.
Very true. Well, hey, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. Got the weekly champion. Here we go. We'll get the big belt out. Jeremy, who's your champion of the week?
For me, it's got to be Cole Reagan's opening day assignment, baby. He is ready to go. I'm picking him. I picked him over on Royals Review to be the Cy Young Award winner this year. I guarantee he's getting votes. So I'm excited I'm excited not just to see him pitch, but to see the Royals say, yeah, no, we understand he really is the best pitcher on our team. I honestly kind of expected them to go with one of those veterans, Seth Lugo or Michael Wacha, and be like, we'll go with that veteran experience. But no, they said, no, he's the best. He's the guy that's going on opening day.
I like that. Chris, who's your champion of the week?
I can't wait to see it. My champion of the week goes out to the USA soccer team for beating Mexico 3 in a row in the CONCACAF Nations League. And the way they did it, it looked impressive as they get ready for Copa America this summer and making that push for the 2026 World Cup. It was big win to see some of the players coming back from Tyler Adams looking good out there. Christian Pulisic looking good out there. Yeah, it's a great look for Greg Berhalter. Let's see if we can carry it on to the summer with Copa America coming up as USA get ready to play some games right here in Kansas City.
Yeah, and Reyna even scored a goal, so that's good to see him back in the fold.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown. Travis Kelce said it right there. He's about to go crazy this year. Hollywood probably gave up a little bit, but I think he gave up a little bit to get a whole lot more. The guy's in the best position he could possibly be. He had good years with Lamar Jackson. Their offense kind of shifted away. They wanted bigger receivers to block, which now they've reversed. But whatever. That's why they moved him. Got to Arizona, dealt with some bad quarterback injuries. Just didn't really get a chance to succeed. I'm excited. I think Hollywood Brown, for what they paid for him, is an amazing signing. And I did want to just give one more note because we mentioned the late Therese Paylor, who is a great guy, terrific writer, and did a great job covering the Chiefs and the entire National Football League.
Yes.
His partner, an excellent writer. She's written for the Wall Street Journal, written for the New York Times. She now works for the Marshall Project. Ebony Reed, she has a book coming out. It's called 15 Cents on the Dollar. It's talking about the wage disparities and the structural economic disadvantages that people are faced with in the country. Check it out on Amazon. It's available for pre-order now. Ebony Reed, 15 cents on the dollar. We'll make her our co-champion of the week here on the FiredUP Network because it kind of ties in to a degree with what we're talking about with the community benefit agreement and getting rid of some of that structural gaps, some of those ongoing issues with urban development that keep people down and keep people from being able to get that upward mobility in the economy. So a little bit heavy note to end with, but I'm sure it's extremely well written, and we'll have her on as it gets closer to the book coming out, but it's available for pre-order now on Amazon. And with that, we'll wrap it up here on Timeout Kansas City. Chris, thanks for joining us and driving everybody home on Hot 103 Jams. Any mention on P. Diddy? It's been a little bit of a rough week.
I don't know if they found
him. Even King Combs got detained for a little bit.
Yes. I don't know if they found him yet, but man, he's got some questions to answer. That is for sure.
Got it, man. It gives a new meaning to Can't Stop, Won't Stop.
Can't stop.
Yeah. And Jeremy, any final thing? I know Royals Review is up. There's probably a lot of stuff for the opening season.
Yeah, we got previews, we got roundtables, we got everything. If you want some Royals stuff, head on over to Royals Review. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Okay, and once you go to Royals Review, probably you can't stop, won't stop. I'll search the Royals stuff to dig into. Okay, with that, stay tuned to the Fired Up Network. More sports coming your way from Kansas City and beyond. Thanks a lot, Gerald Bentley.